Hello and welcome. Today we are diving into a really big question, one I think we all wrestle with. How do we find a sense of peace that actually lasts? We're going to move beyond those temporary fixes for stress and really dig into how you can cultivate a genuine, unshakable calm that comes from deep within.
I mean, you've probably felt this, right? You meditate, maybe you go for a nice walk, and you feel great for a little while. But then that one annoying email lands in your inbox, or you have a frustrating conversation, and poof, that calm just vanishes. Why is it so darn temporary? So let's get right to the heart of it. Most of us think, I'll be calm when my boss changes, or I'll finally have peace when my job gets less stressful. But the real truth, the big secret, is that the shift happens inside of us. It turns out the problem isn't the world, it's our reaction to it. And this really brings us to this cycle that so many of us are trapped in. We're constantly searching for peace, we even find these little moments of it, but then the daily grind just seems to pull us right back into frustration and stress. It feels totally elusive.
And this right here, this really gets to the core of the problem. That bliss you feel after meditating, it's real for sure, but it's fragile. If an hour later you're right back to blaming and complaining, it means the change didn't stick. It means we haven't actually addressed the root cause of why we react in the first place.
Okay, so if the things happening around us aren't the real enemy, what is? Well, the wisdom we're looking at today points to something that's inside all of us, a force that is actively working against our own peace. Now, when we say ego, we're not talking about self-confidence or being assertive. No. In this context, the ego is that part of us, that little voice in our head that insists on its own rightness. It's the voice that screams, "That person is an idiot, and I am completely justified in being angry." It's literally the engine that powers all our blame, complaint, and reaction. And think about what this means. This delusion, this ego, isn't just a bad habit. It's an active barrier. It's like a thick fog covering our mind that literally stops us from transforming. Why? Because to truly change would mean we'd have to admit, hey, maybe I'm not right all the time. And the ego hates that. There's another really powerful term for this, the animal mind. This describes our mind's default programming. It's like the factory settings. It's those old, automatic reactions of anger and blame that just fire off before we even have a chance to think. It's this part of our mind that Eastern wisdom is so focused on training and transforming. Okay, let's be real. If you've tried to change these patterns and found yourself struggling, you are definitely not alone. It is incredibly difficult, and there are some very specific reasons why our best intentions just seem to fizzle out. Let's break these down real quick. First, a lack of genuine commitment. We might show up to a workshop or listen to something like this, but is our mind really here, or is it off thinking about dinner? Second, we misunderstand the goal. We think we're looking for a quick fix. And third, our old habits, which are fueled by the ego, put up a huge fight when we try to change them. I absolutely love this analogy because it is so true, isn't it? We approach self-improvement like it's a spa day. We go for an hour, we feel relaxed, and then we walk away expecting that feeling to last forever without any more effort. But this isn't about relaxation, it's about training. It's like going to the gym for your mind. It's discipline, not a massage. And here's the real kicker. There's a part of us that doesn't actually want to change. The ego loves to be in a state of blame and reaction. It finds a weird, twisted comfort in those old patterns, and it will come up with all sorts of clever excuses to keep them, even when we know they're making us miserable. All right, so just acknowledging these challenges is a huge first step. But what can we actually do about it? Let's get into the practical side of things. Let's open up the toolkit and see what we can use to start training the mind and overcoming these obstacles. This is such a simple but seriously powerful daily practice. It takes maybe 5 or 10 minutes in the evening. You just become your own observer. First, you review the day. Where were those moments of frustration or anger? Then, you analyze the why, and usually it's because some ego-driven expectation wasn't met. Finally, you make a clear commitment for tomorrow. This practice builds self-awareness like nothing else. Okay, here's a tool for those in-the-moment emergencies. When you feel that wave of anger or blame starting to build, you have to consciously interrupt it. You literally superimpose a new positive thought over the negative one. And listen, you don't even have to believe it at first. The key is repetition. It creates a tiny bit of space between you and that reactive thought, and that space is where freedom begins. Look, trying to change in a vacuum is nearly impossible. And that's where this idea of satsang comes in. It literally means the company of truth. It's about regularly putting yourself in an environment that reinforces this new way of thinking. It could be listening to a teacher, reading a book, or just being with people who get it. It keeps you on track. And this right here, this is the mental filing system that satsang helps you build. It trains your mind to start labeling its own states. Anger, ego, conflict. You've learned to see those as false, as impurities. While peace, love, and truth, those are real. And once you can tell the difference, you can consciously choose which ones you want to grow.
This is such a cool reframing of a word most of us already know. In this practice, namaste becomes a powerful internal tool. When you mentally say it to someone, you're not just being polite. You're infusing it with the meaning, not me, as in, my ego is stepping aside here. It's a way to consciously drop your ego in an interaction and just stop a conflict before it even starts.
So as we bring all of these tools together, it leads us to a final and really crucial shift in how we see ourselves. It's a much more compassionate way to view our own minds, and honestly, it's essential for anyone on this path. And this is so important to hear. You are not fundamentally flawed. Your mind is not broken. It's just a system, a computer, if you will, that has been filled with false patterns and impurities like blame and reaction, and they're just running on autopilot. You see, this changes everything. If you think you're trying to fix a broken mind, you're going to get frustrated and feel hopeless really fast. But if you see the goal as patiently cleaning a system of its impurities, that encourages persistence. That encourages self-compassion. It's a gradual journey of purification, not some desperate, frantic repair job. And that brings us to the end. This entire journey, it really just starts with one single choice. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. As you go about your day, what is one false thought, one thought of blame or complaint or reaction that you will consciously choose not to believe today?